Gentlemen, this is ECON211 Macroeconomics, and this is a bonus video about the calculations in Chapter 2. Now, these specific examples were at the end of the PowerPoint slides, and you probably saw them in class. It starts off by giving you the information about some economy somewhere, just the basic components of aggregate spending, where you have the consumer spending, capital C over here, consisting of its exogenous part and the induced spending, which is the marginal propensity to consume. Over here you have disposable income, that's income that's left after paying tax. You also have investment, government spending, exports and imports, which also has this exogenous component, and then the marginal propensity to import multiplied with income. Down here you have the tax rate of 20%, and you'll use this tax rate in conjunction with the idea of the disposable income when you calculate equilibrium income. So that's the basics where you start off. Now the question A is to say calculate the equilibrium level of income using the total spending approach. In other words, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Now all the basic information is listed again here on the right hand side, and you want to put what you have into this expenditure equation. Now, first step is to realize that disposable income over here means that's the money that's left after you've paid tax. So 1 minus the tax rate multiplied with the income level gives you the disposable income. So that's what you need to keep in mind. From there on, you just populate your equation down here. So the first bit, the whole section over here, is consumption. From here at the top, the exogenous consumption, the marginal propensity to consume, and then taking into account that you need to pay tax first, and that leaves you with disposable income. So 1 minus the tax rate. The other is investment, government spending, exogenous exports over here, and then imports, all form part of the equation. Keep in mind that we say minus M, so you have to say minus and then put in the components of your import function. From there on, you basically add and subtract, and you collect the Y's as you go along. So in this case, you are multiplying. First you're subtracting. 1 minus 0.2 is going to give you 0.8. Multiplied with the 0.75 gives you 0.6y. So that's now the consumer consumption part of the story. You still have the investment over there, government spending, exports, and then you take the minus into the brackets over here, so it becomes minus the imports and minus this propensity to import. All the Y's over here and again over there, they need to move to the left hand side of the equation. So plus 0.6 becomes minus 0.6, minus 0.4 becomes plus 0.4. You do the calculation over here, it gives you a positive 0.8y. You take all the others, the 100, the 200, the 150, the 200 minus 150, and that gives you the exogenous spending of 500. Now, if you're multiplying with 0.8 on the left-hand side, that means you need to divide by it when you move it to the right-hand side, and that gives you an answer of 625 as the equilibrium income. We can also ask you the same question and say, use the injection leakage approach. That's the other way of saying use the multiplier approach. It's also easy. You have all the autonomous components of spending right over here. The consumer spending, the investment spending, the government spending, the exports minus the imports. And you take these autonomous components and you multiply that with the multiplier, which is calculated over here. You really need to make sure that you know this formula. It contains the marginal propensity to consume, it has the tax rate, it has the marginal propensity to import. That's all below the line, and you divide that into 1 and it gives you the multiplier value of 1.25. Multiply that with 500 and you get the same answer. It's a quick way of checking yourself. If you have enough time in a test or an exam, make sure that both methods give you the same answer. Then you know you're on the right track. We ask you to draw this on a graph. The key things, it's the normal expenditure function on the 45-degree line graph. We just want to make sure that you know what the autonomous component is. And that's the 500, all the autonomous spendings added up. And you can indicate the equilibrium level of income down here as 625. We're not too bothered about exactly what slope you put on this total spending line. It has to be a positive slope. But we don't care too much about precisely what the slope looks like. We know that it comes mainly from the marginal propensity to consume, but if you draw it like this, you'll get all the marks. A way to go a bit deeper is to say, okay, let's see, is the government's budget in surplus or deficit at this equilibrium? And you know, okay, the government has some tax income and it does some spending. But you don't know what the tax income is. You know what the spending is, but you do know what the tax rate is, and you've just calculated the equilibrium level of income. So if you say 0.2 multiplied with the 625 level of income, that gives you tax income of 125, and we know the government spending is the 150, so the government is running a deficit of minus 25. What we typically ask is, suppose there's some change in one of the autonomous components of spending. In this case, it's investment increasing. The thing to note, though, it doesn't say what the increase is. It says it increases to 250. So it's an increase of 50 from 200 up to 250. And we ask, what is the new equilibrium level of income using the multiplier? So you've already calculated the multiplier, 1.25, and then you can say, okay, but by how much did income change? It's the multiplier multiplied with the change in spending, which was 50. So it's an increase of 62.5. And then what is the new equilibrium level of income? It's the 65 plus the new 62.5. And that gives you the new equilibrium level of income. Finally, you can also plot that on the graph. You can show, okay, I realize that it's an increase in autonomous spending of 50. So it's at the level, the intercept over here was 500 and now it becomes 550. And the equilibrium income moves up from 625 to 687.5. The slope of the spending line is unchanged, and you find the sort of a significant increase in spending that's greater than just the original increase in autonomous spending. And of course, that's down to the multiplier. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think the calculations are relatively straightforward. You add, you subtract, you multiply, you divide. But there are a few places where you need to use some of your economic knowledge. I'm sure you're going to master this. Practice as many examples as you can, and you'll be ready to get these